Hello and welcome to the second week of the In Focus, what we call now this Sunday edition. The topic is about electrical transport, or what we call as e-mobility on the other side of the town. So don't go away, because In Focus is just about to start. They say one man's food is another man's poison. This is the transition we've started. A cross-section of motorcyclists said that they are ready to embrace electric motorcycles, while others say that it will be but a loss to them. Tonight on the In Focus, we discuss the feasibility of electric mobility in Rwanda. But before we get there, let's look back at this report.
Manatre is one of the motorcyclists who uses an electric motorcycle. He says that this is of advantage to him, as he does not have to buy gas and that no emission of it pollutes the environment. If the normal motorcycle spends 5,000 on gas, then automatically you know that I've saved this. This motorcycle is full of advantages. It has been 2 months since the electric motorcycles have started being tested and used in the country. For now, these electric motorcycles travel between 40 and 50 kilometers before having to change the battery. As far as the distance is concerned, it is between 40 and 45 kilometers at least. We contacted the people concerned and they told us that they will see how to increase the distance to at least 100 kilometers. When the battery is weak, I am given another one and I continue with my journey. Marcus Ernest, one of the users of the electric motorcycles, said this is a good thing and everyone should embrace it. This bike does not have a gas exhaust, does not use an engine or oil, and it helps to preserve the environment, and there are other benefits. If you consider the money you spend on just putting gas on your motorcycle in a week, then you can imagine how much you'll spend while using this electric motorcycle, which is nothing. Some motorcyclists say they are satisfied with electric motorcycles but are worried that they will suffer losses when the motorcycles are no longer allowed to circulate. We would like the government to help us because we are not against the progress nor against the preservation of the environment. We want the government to help us to understand how they will do this, and those who have the gas bikes can continue to work before the introduction of the electric ones. During the Meet the President that took place this Wednesday, President Paul Kagame dispelled the fears that motorcyclists had, saying that there are ways that are being looked into to see that this is done gradually.
Turashaka mu Rwanda ko twagira moto zikoresha electricity gusa. Electric
We want to see Rwanda use electric motorcycles only. What is in the market destroys the environment right now, and we also want to move with times and develop our own country. This will promote Rwandans, maintain hygiene and cleanliness, but we will not just take them away from you. We will find ways of making an exchange. I want to inform all motorcyclists in advance to help us so that when the time comes, you will help us to achieve this.
ab'umwuga wa moto nagira ngo mbategure ko muzadufashe kubyihutisha igihe bizaba byatangiye.
So far, there are about 45,000 motorcyclists in the country.
All right, you heard it, but the conversation just began last Wednesday during the Meet the President event, and we are continuing the conversation tonight, and I have the pleasure to be joined by, among many of them that I have tonight, James Musisi, who is a taxi motor operator. Musisi, how are you?
Fine, how are you?
Very good. Thank you so much for coming to join us here on the In Focus.
Welcome.
I think I should remove this. Oh, hey. So, tell me, how long have you been doing this?
With the electric motors?
No, this
Driving motorbikes?
Yes.
Almost 12 years.
12 years.
Yeah.
Fantastic. You probably know the difference between these. This is, by the way, an electric motor by ampersand. It's different from the usual one that we're used to seeing, which is probably the one that is powered by fossil fuel. So tell me the difference between this and the one you've used for the last 10 years?
Yeah. There are so many differences from between the motorbikes that uses electric and those one which uses fuel lubricants. So basing on electric motors does not have a noise since they do not use fuel. There's no noise. So it is good for the people with problems of cardiac diseases. Cannot disturb them. Even the passengers at the bike can keep on calling, receiving calls to doing their business without noise.
It is so safe.
Yeah. Secondly, this bike is very cheap according to the expenses. There's no need of oil change. There's no chain. There's no drum brakes. This one uses disc brakes, and it lasts long compared to the drum brakes. So according to the expenses, this one requires less. While those that use fuel lubricants, every week we have to change the oil. Every week we have to change the oil, clean the drum brakes, and other things, which is not needed on this one. So this one
it doesn't have noise, and I want you to start it, and then we'll continue the conversation when it's on.
Okay, this one. Now I have started.
It's on right now.
Now it's on. Now I
You
can
can
move.
actually drive.
Now I can move.
Interesting. Before you move, I want you to move and go back to work because you came here straight from work. When you had the president mention that you should take lead, the motorists should take lead in phasing out the fossil fuel powered motorcycles, what came into your mind?
Really, I appreciated it because I have almost 2 months using that one, and it's better. And the passengers like it very much.
James Musisi, thank you so much for your time, and the conversation has just begun. Thank you so much for giving us the hint of what this. How heavy is it? Is it very heavy?
Yeah, it's very heavy.
It's very heavy.
Yeah.
Compared to the ones that you
Yeah.
So probably that's something that the manufacturers need to sort out. Yeah? Okay, so I want you to start it off, and I will say goodbye. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And I will release you to go back to work
Thank you.
as we go for a short break, and then we come back with the panel discussion. Is this what we need or not? Let's first send him off, and then we come back. All All right, welcome back. Now we are talking e-mobility in Rwanda. Are we ready for it or not? You heard what James Musisi told us, and I have the pleasure to be joined by other panelists here on the InFocus. And to begin with, let me introduce Engineer Koreta Ruhamya, who is the Director General of Rwanda Environment Management Authority, REMA. Thank you so much, Engineer, for joining us. And we have Josh Well, a founder of Ampersand, who are the manufacturers of the motor that we just saw here. Thank you so much for joining us here on the InFocus.
Pleasure to be here.
And for all you waiting, and of course we have Engineer Jean d'Amour Rwunguko. I got that right, acting Kigali City Engineer. Thank you so much for finding time to join us here on the InFocus. You heard what we talked with Musisi, and it's quite an amazing journey that Rwanda is, embarking on. But let me begin with you. How ready are we to phase out all these motors that we've had for the years to embrace the new ones that probably are not so many on the market now? Yeah.
Thank you very much, Hassan. I think we are more than ready. As you can see, it's already on the ground. We are doing a feasibility study, but I want to mention this feasibility study is not just to inform that it's possible or not possible. It's rather to indicate how best this can be done. Giving an example like what are the required infrastructures, what are the required legal frameworks in place, what should we start with? For example, you are talking about the e-motorcycle. Maybe when you go also further to the e-vehicles, which one to start with? Should we start with the personal driving cars or the public transport cars? Because if the objective is to minimize pollution and, of course, reduce emissions, greenhouse emissions, I think starting with the big cars that are always in the move, always in traffic, will be the best option to start with. So the feasibility study is not actually to say it is possible, it's rather to say what are the requirements to be able to implement it and more strategically.
Interesting. I know you're the happiest one when
Yes.
you had the president mention that, from the environmental perspective, of course.
Yes.
Probably before I engage Josh, because there are quite a number of questions for you, but I want to hear from Engineer Jean d'Amour. How is the city of Kigali readying itself to, adopt this new revolution, if I may call it, of e-mobility?
Yeah, of course, the city is ready. We've got different initiatives that involve the e-mobility. You've been explaining about the electric motors. We also are looking at electric vehicles with different stakeholders, of course. The DG has informed about the feasibility study. That is something that we are running together with all the concerned institutions. Particularly the city of Kigali has this into the transport master plan and also in the smart city agenda. We have got different things that we have to look at, including potentially the electric mobility. And I should also mention that apart from the motors, as I said, also look at what we call the cable cars and the electric vehicles that are using the roads. And I should also mention that the electric mobility is part of the green mobility, which is one of the very strong goals of the city of Kigali. So having this initiated, having this into practice now, we are reaching to our goals. We are succeeding one of the goals of being the city of green climate, green character.
I'm not so sure if Rwanda is at 100%. Well, it's not at 100% electrification, that's for sure. And one wonders, if you introduce electric, motorcycles and vehicles, what is the feasibility, what is the possibility of, having these cars and motorcycles actually working when you actually don't have enough power?
I think we have enough power. And the projection, we have so many power plants in pipeline that will be commissioned soon. We have Rusumo, we have the pit-to-power plant, about 80 megawatts. I think we have some initiatives that in pipeline. And I believe by the time we have this program in place, we have actually extra energy to supply. And the good thing of this is looking at the perspective that this will be most of the made in Rwanda. If you have motorcycles that are made here, I think he will explain more. Yeah. And we have the electric generated in Rwanda. We have the drivers that are from Rwanda. Then at least we have a complete set of made in Rwanda products, rather than having the fuel-based, the fossil fuel-based motorcycle or vehicles that you only have made in Rwanda as a driver.
Interesting. Josh, how long have you been on this journey of manufacturing electric motorcycles?
So we started this journey about 5 years ago, and we looked around the region at East Africa, and we chose Rwanda specifically because it had the best conditions, we felt, to achieve a world first, the world's first mass market shift to electric mobility with a vehicle that was not a substitute, not weaker, but really something that could go head to head and compete directly with the incumbent petrol or diesel vehicle. And the motorcycle taxi market in East Africa, and especially Rwanda, was the perfect fit for that.
And could fuel, rather electricity, be one of the challenges you've encountered so far?
For electricity, we found that the grid is sufficiently reliable in Kigali. There has been a lot of investment made in new transmission lines. There are some lines in particular that are operating well under capacity, and where REG has indicated that would be good sites for us. Another nice thing about an electric vehicle, as long as you have enough charging stations around, if you have a local issue in one area, so one station goes down, the motorcycle can keep going, especially if you let them know in advance that, oh, by the way, there isn't power at this location at the moment. But it really hasn't been a major issue for us.
Okay. How many are on the market now?
So far, we have 10 motorcycles out on the road, acting as motos, with drivers like James, out on the streets of Kigali taking passengers. And that's been the case now for a couple of months. And we've had an amazing response from drivers. We've actually been trying to keep a low profile a little bit and just keeping our head down and getting all the details of the vehicles right to address some of the concerns that drivers have. But despite that, we've had up until Wednesday morning, we had about 1,000 drivers just come up, just hearing about it and coming in and signing up and getting on our waiting list. And since His Excellency President Kagame's announcement, we've had another 600 drivers up until 6 o'clock on Friday come and register. So it's a very exciting time.
You're ready to serve this market. It's a huge one.
It's a huge market. Estimates we've seen are of around 100,000 motorcycle taxis at the moment in Rwanda in total, and rising to about 150,000 in just a few years. So it's a huge challenge, and it will take a lot of hard work and perseverance to get there. But we're excited and we're up for it.
It's a good challenge as well. It's a good challenge. No, so you had it. The challenges that we're probably having, many people are coming to look for these motorcycles. So one wonders what is in place to. How are we going to phase out these that are already in the market? Make sure that we introduce the ones that Josh and others are going to produce.
I think Josh has put it clear that the demand is there.
The demand is there.
The demand is there.
The phasing out of the
The phasing out comes slowly.
Yeah.
I think we are doing different things concurrently. As we wait for the feasibility study to show us which we start first or what should be running concurrently. But again, you have people that are in demand and you have someone who is supplying. So I think the point here is to make sure they have facilities that are required. as he put it clear, they have some charging stations already installed. We'll keep on installing other charging stations to facilitate those who are already on the road. But again, planning strategically on how best we can provide all these required facilities.
Are you working together with them to make sure that we have these charging stations? Because there are not many. I understand there are only 2. One at the factory in Gikondo, Chichuchiro, and another one,
And we have 2 depots that we're using at the moment to extend the network. One at Kimironko Market and one at Kinamba Bridge. And we charge those batteries at a central location and then shuttle them out with a van back and forth so that we can simulate a citywide network for our first network of currently 10 and going up to 20 drivers in about a month's time without having the big infrastructure and disruption of building a citywide network on day one. But we plan to have 5 stations later this year and early next year in order to serve a much larger number of vehicles.
Sure. Engineer Koreta talked about the big cars, and of course this should be, the city of Kigali should be at the forefront of implementing this. What is the future of e-vehicles in Kigali?
Kigali has got very many plans about e-vehicles, and we look about the private vehicles as well as the public vehicles, the buses. And I think we already have some suppliers, including the Volkswagen, who are already into the process of producing the electric vehicles. They have already started and are negotiating on where to put now the station for charging. And they are starting their first phase, and that is the proof of concept for 5 stations. And it's in different locations, one in special economic zone, the other one in the city, the other one at the ministry, at the new ministerial building, and some other areas. So I think we are quite some step ahead, and that is for Volkswagen. And there is this feasibility study now that is being done by another company that is doing about the cable cars, and these are now vehicles that do not use road, but they use the cables, but they are also run by electricity. So we are welcoming other initiatives, other initiators that could be interested in the business, so that we could have in like end this year, we could have the first phase with the Volkswagen. And then later next year, we could have some other investors that are coming in for the full e-mobility. We also have some trainings. We send people to Germany for trainings to see how things are operated, because Germany is one of the countries that have gone a certain big step into the electric mobility.
She also mentioned about big cars, more specifically the public transport buses.
The buses.
The buses, yeah. I think that's one way of phasing out these car emissions. And one would wonder, what is the relation? How are you engaging the private sector, this company, RFTC, Royal, these buses, to make sure that probably in the next bunch of the buses they're importing in, they import e-buses?
Actually, the visibility study is involving each and everybody that has a role to play in this. We have Kigali City, Mininfra, Rwanda Transport Agents, private sector, RURA, that regulates the transport sector. And that's where the channel goes to the private sector that are involved in this business. So we hope by the time the feasibility study is ready, and they're already in the move because they are aware of this process, I think it will be easier for them to come and maybe with facilitation. If they need the facilitation from the government will be ready to support that.
Is that something you're discussing about,
Yes.
subsidization of these cars?
I think if people think of subsidy just at the beginning.
Yeah.
But for us, they will think...
And they're right, I think.
Yes, but it might not require subsidy.
Yeah.
It depends the outcome of the feasibility study.
Yeah.
If the subsidy is also required, I think the government can look at the possible subsidy to give. compare the benefit that we are getting as a government.
Talking about money and subsidies and all that, I want to know how expensive or cheap is ampersand a motorbike compared to the normal ones that we see?
So it's really important for us to put a vehicle on the road that is both better and cheaper and cleaner than the current motorcycles.
Yeah.
So by better I mean easier to drive, more power, not less power for climbing up hills, and other features that make it overall more simple to drive and operate, and also safer than the current vehicles. By cheaper, I mean both cheaper to get your hands on one, whether it's buying it or renting or on a rent-to-own scheme, as well as to operate it. So the most motards in Kigali get their hands on a motorcycle by a rent-to-own scheme, and it's the same, I think, across the rest of the country as well. And that means that over 12 to 24 months, they pay off the capital cost of the motorcycle. So we've designed our package to align with exactly the way that drivers are used to getting their hands on a motorcycle. We're also designing a rental package that includes, both include servicing and spare parts for the motorcycle. Spare parts is something that is really important for motards. It's something that comes up all the time. They're concerned, I think, by previous efforts from new entrants in the market with petrol motorcycles that suddenly they couldn't get a part, and that meant they couldn't work for a month. So that's a really, really important thing. And so we take responsibility for that and provide a guarantee that drivers will be able to get the parts and make sure that any consumable parts are also cost competitive with the incumbent vehicles. And lastly, yes, that they're also cleaner, both in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. About a 75% reduction we've calculated for using Rwanda's current electrical grid, even including some new peak power generation that's coming online, and also in terms of just pollution, tailpipe emissions. These simple motorcycles that are currently used do not comply with Euro 3 standards. They don't even comply, I believe, with the Bharat standards in India from where they come from. So the current TVS model that's sold in Rwanda, my understanding is it's now been superseded by a new model back in India. So around about 16 times more pollution from a simple 125cc motorcycle compared to even a Euro 3 standard car.
You didn't mention the price.
So it's very important that it's cheaper. So by cheaper,
because
I mean,
people are going to have to inquire. And,
sure. So
and
for
probably
a
some will
price,
actually go on my Twitter handle and be like, "Ethan, you didn't ask."
Okay, so the current sticker price will be somewhere between the same as the cost of the Bajaj Boxer BM150, which in US dollars is about $1,350, about 1.3 million Rwandan francs. And between that and the cost of the TVS Victor GLX, which is the one that's most common on the streets of Rwanda, and that's about 1,650 USD or 1.55 million Rwandan francs, I believe, at the moment. So our motorcycle will be definitely cheaper than the TVS and maybe cheaper than the Bajaj to buy. But the most important thing for most motards is not the sticker price, because only about 10% of motards actually walk into a dealership and buy a new motorcycle. What matters more is how much they pay per week, both in terms of the rental payments or repayments if they're going to end up owning the motorcycle, both in terms of those repayments and the running cost of the motorcycle. So we'll be cheaper than the current motorcycles on those upfront costs. But the main thing is that you'll save around 500,000 Rwandan francs and up to 900,000 Rwandan francs a year on your running costs.
Okay, the running cost is cheaper.
Much, much cheaper.
Okay.
So why didn't you work together and expedite this process?
No, we are working together.
You want to tell us the collaboration you're having with Ampersand and there's another company called Gura? I think they do the same.
Yeah.
Gura?
For the bicycles.
So we want to know, for the bicycles. What is the collaboration you're having with the, companies like Ampersand to make sure that you expedite the process that was mentioned by the president?
I think, as he put it clear, we actually promote this.
Yeah.
The promotion is also part of the support for them to bring it to the required products. Because as the environmentalists, of course, we need to promote clean mobility, and e-mobility is part of clean mobility. And as we promote the sustainable cities, as we aim, I think the urbanization we expect to be increasing by 36%. Yeah. And we need to plan ahead to see how are we going to provide those infrastructures required and services that are green to support the people that will be coming into cities. And one way to actually work on this is more on to provide the transportation system that is clean, and also give other services that is required to support our people. Otherwise, we'll have people that are coming into cities, but in few days they will be all sick and suffocating because of air pollution.
So the reason I was insisting about the prices is there is a perception, and it could be right, that these electric vehicles and motorcycles are really expensive compared to, the conventional ones, the ones that we're used to. And, Volkswagen is the first one that we're having in here, and probably it will take a couple of other years to have, to have someone import an electric car to Rwanda, because we don't have many stations. If you're probably staying in places like Masaka or Bugesera and you work in town, it's going to be very difficult for you to find somewhere to charge. So this is something that you have to think about real fast and expedite the process in terms of the prices for the cars, and also making sure that we have different charging stations, isn't it?
Yeah, I think for the charging stations, that one is not an issue. Because for the vehicles, for the Volkswagen, it runs like 400 kilometers, so that the batteries get off after running 400 kilometers. So if you talk of an area like Masaka or Bugesera, as you said, this is something less than 50 kilometers. So it's even something very smaller. It's a very smaller distance than what the vehicle could go. So they are starting with 5 charging stations, and that is up to December this year. But after this year, that is after December, we'll be having a lot of charging stations everywhere, because they have different projects that they are running together with the city of Kigali and other stakeholders. So I think this is going to be one of the successful projects they are running with the city, with other stakeholders. So there's no issue of charging stations. We have free land, we have free parkings, we have different areas where we have land banked, and this land banked, everybody that has got something to do with promotion of the development of the country, development of the city of Kigali, we could be able to give this one for free. Especially that it's not something bigger, it's not big shelters, it's something very small that you come and connect your batteries, then you go.
And looking at the prices themselves, especially for the cars, we had Josh is on the safe side of the prices, but for the cars specifically, and this to begin with Volkswagen, is there any negotiations that you're having to make sure that you reduce the prices for these cars?
We haven't gone such far, because you don't know exactly how much it will cost.
Would you be willing to do that, to go that far?
Yes, why not? Because I want to have one.
Me too. Yes.
Yeah, I want to be the promoter. And
I don't mind promoting some of them as well.
Yes. Yeah. So I think if you see, this is a global challenge. If you see after the Paris Agreement, 2015, COP 2015, I think most of the countries has moved and have pledged, and some announced to phase out or phase down the production and sale of fossil fuel-based vehicles. And some of the companies, the production companies like the Volkswagen, the BMW, have also announced to move to production of these electrical and hybrid cars. So I don't see why Rwanda should be behind. I think it's the right time that Rwanda should also come forward and take this move forward, and we call each and everybody of us to also embrace it and go together.
Engineer Koreta, help us understand the cost of, in terms of environmental perspective. How dangerous are these fossil fuel powered vehicles and motorcycles in Rwanda?
Thank you very much. I think REMA conducted a study on air pollution, and one of the areas that is very threatening is pollution into close to the traffic, close to the road, where most of the sources of pollutants are from the vehicles. Vehicles, of course, and motorcycle, and this is due to the fossil fuel burning. And most of the pollutants is, okay, I'm going to chemistry now.
Yeah. Most of the pollution.
Yes, the pollutants that actually affects our body. Leave out the emission of the greenhouse gases that affects brings up climate change impact, but also consider the environmental issues and health of our people. And most of these areas that we are talking about, that's why you get so many people are concentrated, because people are in the city, are running, moving around, and this has been also proved when we measure the pollutant level and the day and the during the free day, car-free day. Yeah. Quite different, and you could see the significance on the contribution of these emissions from the vehicles. So it's very threatening as we continue to use this the fossil fuel-based vehicles and motorcycles. Is going to actually affect our people, and already the statistics from the study that were conducted, we could realize that most of our people are affected by the respiratory diseases. That
about 5,000 die every day, every year.
Yes.
With the
there is statistics globally, and there is statistics in Rwanda.
Globally, it's about 2 million, if I remember very well.
Yeah, and this has been increasing, and the main source is because of the air pollution. And one of the causes of the air pollution is transportation.
Interesting. And how sure that Mr. Josh's motorcycles are safe for that reason?
We actually measure. We do. We measure, we test. And we know exactly how it works. See, this is from the burning of the fuel when you start the engine. So it's different. This is using electricity. So the mechanism that is used, the reaction that takes place is different.
There's no side effects to the environment whatsoever?
From electric?
Yes.
No. Unless it comes, when you look at the life cycle of the motorcycle and the whole operation, maybe if you consider that the energy that is being used is mixed, of course you have some energy that is based on fuel, the machine, but the impact is only at the plant, but not when the electricity is already in the system, in the line.
So, you know, the impact, the area of impact is concentrated into just one place, if there is any impact whatsoever.
Yes, and actually when it runs also based on the fossil fuel, then you have different sources, and they all emit the emissions and pollutants.
But they are heavy compared to the ordinary ones.
Yeah, they're about 120, 130 kilos versus about 112 kilos for the conventional motorcycles. But that's still within a very acceptable range for weight for motorcycles. So the large BMWs that the police drive around on are well over 200 kilograms each. So still manageable, and the weight is also kept quite low. So where the battery pack is located between the driver's knees and quite far forward. So that's about the best place you can possibly carry that weight.
There's no possibility of electric shock on something? Someone being electrocuted? Afterward?
It depends. If people tamper with it, we take a lot of steps to ensure that there isn't that possibility. But if it comes to it that there's people opening the box, and we've had someone already attempt to open a box. So we've taken a lot of steps to make that not possible and clearly label it. It is high-powered electronics, but there are also steps that can be taken in longer term with all electric vehicles. Things like the police service and firefighters will need to receive training on how to deal with an accident involving an electric vehicle. But there's a lot that you can do to maximize the safety.
Are you planning to probably looking into reducing the weight of the motorcycle?
Yes, so we're doing a lot of R&D at the moment, focusing on 3 areas. One on the software system that manages the distribution of the batteries and optimizes the charging speed to make the batteries last as long as possible, because the longer the total lifespan of the battery, the lower the cost for the consumer, and the less batteries you need to manufacture, which also has positive environmental benefits. And some of this R&D is focused on improving the drivetrain, so making the motor system more efficient. That will increase the range and get us closer to that 100 kilometers that James was mentioning earlier. And then finally on the battery side, on making the batteries more energy dense, which means that they don't have to be so large, and you can shape them differently in the vehicle so they look a bit more attractive in the motorcycle as well, and that can get the weight down.
Now, the city of Kigali, the new upgrade of roads, so that pedestrian paved ways, and then the bicycle lanes and everything, but we haven't seen many of them. The bicycles, on the bicycle lanes. Do you think the public is so much into it, or it's probably you're putting it for the future use, maybe in 50 years?
Not in 50 years. Yeah. Of course, we do not have a lot of people using cycles, but that is the dependence with the background of people. But with the evolution now, people are starting to use cycles. With the projects that we have, like Gura, the one that you already mentioned, Gura technology brings cycles that are able to operate on the slopes that you have in Kigali. See, Kigali is a little bit
hilly.
It's hilly. It has a little bit big slopes, and with discussions with Gula, we talked about the hilliness of the city, and then they said we are able now to do the projects. The products that are vehicles that are able to climb all this hilliness of the city. So we believe that people will be attracted more with their product, with the cycles. So we know that the lanes should be there, and then we attract people to use these lanes. So it's a discussion going on with this product from Gura.
One discussion on the other side, but there's also an issue of the mindset, making sure, because currently when you get a car in our society, in our setup, then you become someone. So I'm wondering if Ethan bought a bicycle instead of a car, what my people are going to think, and how do we change that mindset? How do we make sure that, look, you buy a car, yes, it's good for you if you think, but buy a bicycle, it's healthy, or an electric motorcycle. How do we change that mindset?
I think changing mindset is not overnight.
Yeah,
it is a process, and as we are talking here, I think we are doing our job to make people change their mind. We used to see people like to have these big buildings, a big house, 5, 6 bedrooms.
Yeah.
But now people are moving it to apartments, and it works. So I think it is about educating our people and show the reality on where we are heading, and if we have to use these resources efficiently for ourselves and for our future generation. And that comes in the same perspective that people used to own the cars, but I think if we have a very good public transport, I think we will be jumping into that big buses and go to work and come back. I think what we need is to have sustainable transportation systems, and that is reliable. That's one thing. I think some people go to buy their own vehicles because they want efficiency in transportation, to go to work and come back and go to visit somewhere and come back. But if you have reliable transportation from one point A to B, you can also jump into the bus. And I think this applies to the same to the use of the bicycles and the motorcycle.
So the ampersand motorcycles, are they, I hope I didn't interrupt you.
No.
So are they produced, 100% produced locally in Rwanda?
So some of the components are produced locally. So the most important is the battery, which we do produce here locally in Kigali, and that's the most high tech and high value part of the whole vehicle. We also assemble the motorcycles locally, and some components there's no injection molding facilities for the plastic parts, and some components we still need to source internationally. But as we look at the whole value chain and the whole all the different components of the vehicle, each one has its own manufacturing and capital cost. So something like the plastic parts have a very high initial tooling cost, and if you're actually going to produce it, extremely high for these giant machines that spit out low-cost pieces of plastic. But other parts, like the motor, you actually require relatively low amounts of capital, and you have a lot of advantage from making it yourself. So you can make it exactly as you need it for your market, so we can achieve this ideal product market fit. We can make a motor that is exactly designed for the characteristics of our customers here. So those are some of the analyses that we're going through now. And as we grow larger and larger, we want to do more and more here.
I have a few comments that I picked from social media, specifically Twitter. Let me read some of them out. This one is from Likunze Jandamasen, who says that I think Rwanda is ready for this. He means green mobility, of course. They have been testing some of the electronic motorcycles. Any challenges will be handled accordingly. I hope it will work effectively. This seems he understands what he's talking about.
Yeah, that's easy to change.
So there is a hashtag, rather a Twitter handle from someone called Kintu Kuroi, whatever this means. He says, we are not ready. Where are the charging stations? How much to charge? What is the maintenance cost like? Cost of spares? What is the life of electric motors? How does it break even? Do they climb fast Kigali hills? Are there many vendors for the competition? What happens to old motor vehicles? Now, before I even read other comments here, let's probably start answering some of these comments. Where are the charging stations? That one has been answered. How much to charge? That's a very good question to you. How much if one has run out of fuel? How much power? Okay, that will take long to also change. We're used to charging fuel. How much does one?
So one swap costs about the same, or a little bit less than a liter of fuel, except it gets you about 50% further. So instead of getting you 43 kilometers, which is what we measured from the conventional motorcycles per liter, we found it's actually about 65 kilometers, even with our current state of technology. And as I mentioned, we're doing a lot of work on R&D, which I should mention is also partly funded by FNOA, Rwanda's Climate Fund, which is focused on reducing the cost per kilometer.
Yes, cost questions.
Cost is 1,000 francs a year, just changing their oil, because they cover such massive different distances. There are a lot of components that you simply don't need. There is no chain. There are no clutch discs. There are no piston rings. Yeah. There's no heat. So the maintenance is that we simply take responsibility for that from the driver, and the drivers pay a flat fee that's less than what they're currently spending on average. And then, because there are certain things that we would really like to have, for example, the disc brakes, which cost a bit more upfront, and the parts for those cost more, but they're much safer than the conventional drum brakes, and are actually required in Europe and India now. You can't actually buy a motorcycle that only has drum brakes anymore.
Interesting. And there's this. What is the life of electric motors? How long do they last?
So
Any questions?
the motors themselves, as long as there is no error with the way that the vehicle is configured, so there's no software errors or anything, and all the fail-safes are working, then the motor should, if it goes for 100 kilometers, it should go for 10 years. There's only one moving part. It's extremely simple. And then otherwise, it really depends on what kind of what quality of components you source. So the rest of the motorcycle, the shock absorbers and the wheels and the rest of the chassis, that's the same as a normal motorcycle.
If I come back to you, quite a number of questions for Josh. Do they climb fast Kigali hills?
Yes. So I think James mentioned that they do.
James mentioned that. Yeah.
So one advantage they have is there's no gears. You don't need gears anymore. Goodbye to juggling, clutch, and a shifter, and trying to get up the hill especially with a passenger on the back. So we actually found, with the help of firm Esri, who have an office here in Kigali, the steepest street in Kigali, which is a street in Nyarutarama, the steepest paved road. And we did a series of tests with the conventional motorcycles next to ours to make sure that our motorcycle was at least as good as, if not better than the conventional bikes. And I'm pleased to say we won that test every time. So that's our benchmark.
And this one goes to both of you, and to answer his question, are there many vendors for the competition? And probably how did Ampersand come into the market? Should I begin with you?
Yes.
Yes.
I think that the DG has mentioned about sensitizing the products. Many of the motorists do not know about the product, and they do not know whether it works and the advantages. So we already have started, and this emission is one of the sensitizing media that we have to tell people, to inform people that you have a good product that is cheaper than the existing, and that works very better, and that has got now a lifetime that is a little bit bigger than the existing product. I think for Rwandans, it doesn't take too much time to explain when you see the advantages. So I think the demand is quite there. Josh has explained about the 1,000 that they already have, and the other 600 they also have. So when they take the activities to maybe countryside, they even have more demand than probably Kigali, if you combine the three remaining provinces. So I think people are ready, the demand is there, the product is there, and the project is going to be successful.
I think the person was also asking about the possibility of having Ampersand being the monopolizing the market.
Yeah. I think I know.
We're not asking for a monopoly.
The only one.
You're
but
the
I
only
think
one.
I want actually to take this opportunity and congratulate him because they started this without no one else. It's an opportunity for them. And when other people are going to wake up and bring it, then he will have made a lot of money. And I think it's a good move,
Yeah,
and
sure.
to try to bring other people
Sure.
coming.
And what will happen to the old motors? Very quickly, we have less than a minute to complete this.
Okay, I think the old motors will continue.
Yeah.
It's not saying that you are going to throw them away, but at least slowly they will be phasing them out. When they want a new motor, they have to come and take this one.
Absolutely.
And probably we might have a system where they can bring it and take the new one with some additional fund.
Interesting. That's a good. They should be coming.
I'm not sure. It will depend on the feasibility study.
True. Let me give you the opportunity, 10 seconds, each one of you, to your closing remarks. What is the future of e-mobility in Rwanda?
I see the future of e-mobility to be very bright. I think that's where we're heading. It's not only Rwanda, it's a global move. And I call all of us, all Rwandans, to embrace this and take it forward.
Interesting. Thank you so much. Your closing remarks.
Well, I'd just like to express my gratitude and admiration for the way that the issue has been embraced by the government of Rwanda, and the feasibility study has been conducted. We've been closely involved with that, and we're really excited about the future, and we're glad to be here.
And the city of Kigali.
Yes, I think that we could advocate for this so that Kigalians would embrace the technology and buy the the product, and then we succeed to our goal of being the green city, because it's the benefit for us all in terms of health matters.
Interesting. Thank you so much. And before we conclude it, I have two comments to read very quickly. One from someone called Man Behind the Camera. From the little knowledge I have about this is that the old motors will be exchanged for the new ones. I don't know where he got this one from. And yes, they can climb Kigali hills. I personally have used them. Thank you so much, Man Behind the Camera. And the last one, not the least, of course, there are many over there, but there's Jesse K. Maxella who says, interesting development, referring to green mobility in Kigali. Of course, let me thank you so much, Jean Damour. Thank you so much, Josh. Thank you so much, Engineer Coretta Rohamia, for joining us on the In Focus.
Thank you very much.
The conversation right here on Rwanda TV ends here, but it doesn't end entirely about the green mobility in Rwanda. Keep the conversation going on. If you have any questions, these are the right people to ask. Engineer Coretta Rohamia from REMA. If you want the electric motor, there's Josh. You can always reach out to them. And of course, if you have any questions regarding the e-mobility in Kigali, Jean Damour is the city engineer, and he knows everything and anything that you need to know. From me and the entire team, it's Ethan Tashobia as always, and In Focus ends here. Have a good night. Bye-bye.